So today in CM Talks we have Prof.Samar Nakhate with us. I would like to introduce him. He was my professor in college too. You go to Google and you Google his name, you will find everything that Google has to say. I'll tell you what I know of him, because of my personal interaction with him. So we were new in college and we were discussing films. हम लोग जब बोलते थे ना कि फिल्म अच्छा है, Nakhate sir would prove that film कितनी खराब है. And then we'll say नहीं sir ये film फिर बहुत खराब है. Then he'll prove film कितना अच्छा है. So we got really frustrated and we thought कि what the fuck क्या हो रहा है? मतलब how can you confuse us? So we all went in group of 10-15 to complain, sir आप क्या कर रहे हो? You are not leading us anywhere. So he taught us a very basic thing. He said education in India was anciently based on something called Vaad Vivad. You give me a perspective, I give you the counter perspective of it. You give me a counter perspective, I tell you also why that is wrong. So when you make a right decision, you have 10 reasons to know why that right decision might not be right.
You can cue back.
So Prof.Samar Nakhate, ex-Dean FTII, and amongst us, thank you sir.
Hello. To be frank enough, it's a very different session, because when I express or say something, it's a very, very different interaction with which we go. So please bear with me. I'm a very oddly connected, crazy guy. So let's try to see if we can connect it together. One more factor here, when we are talking today, the most important factor when I saw a couple of years back, around 30 years back, something, when they were talking about, and we're talking about the images, why the human beings create image, we still don't know. Another thing is, did we create the image first or did we create the sound first? That's also not very clear. What happens in human brain? When I was abroad and when I was in Boston, we used to go to MIT and then we used to discuss about it. What happens in the human brain when we talk about, suppose, Einsteinian brain or Einstein's logic of brain, and they were working on artificial intelligence or something roughly 35 years back, and when they were talking about it, they said that what happens in a human brain is equal as or sometimes more in a creative brain than Einstein's brain. We are comparing Einstein and Bhimsen Joshi or some kind of a very great composer or singer. When we are talking about, let's say, Mozart, it happened like that. Somebody said that, oh, I got it. And the guy said, no, you can't. Because it took me probably 18 years to realize I'm on the grade 1 and you are saying that you got it. Now why I'm trying to tell you that, our existence changed with the logic of machinated images. And when I saw a very interesting commercial, kind of a commercial, which was talking that now our brains are not our brains are wired. All of us are wired. We don't have, our neurological pathways never go in a context. So let's go back, when in the primitive structure of a human being, actually that was truly 4-dimensional. Actually more than that, because when we talk about dimensions today, we talk very simplistically, very odd way. But the philosophically, the context of human existence and the meaning which was coming to us, where the directly you are in contact with nature, where we are not at all. Not at all. I was watching, when I was working with the tribals, the tribal woman was doing something and the kid was moving. And when the kid was moving and going probably beyond the range where she cannot take care or maybe get hurt, so she tied one crab. So the crab will go, and as the child goes, she will pull the crab, so the child will come back. I was talking to another friend of mine at Tribal Belt. He said that you don't look at your home the way we see, because it's very different. Because if there are no snakes in the home, we say that it's over, let's change the home. And that's what I'm trying to make you say. The 4th dimension is that existential logics of self changing the miti, that is the dimensions, in the flux. Now, when we human beings started creating images, and if you have heard about Venus of, there's a Venus figure in 28,000 years BC, in which what has happened that there was no head. And last week, there was a very eminent anthropologist died last month back. and we were celebrating him, is that he is looking at the complete Indian female forms which doesn't have head but only the genitals and the arms. So the complexities at which we create and we relate to images has completely narrowed down. So from that we went into 3-dimension, what we call sculpturous context of that, and the photography brought us to 2-dimension. So we are slowly losing the dimensions of existing in creativity, and that's the basic problem. Now from that 2-dimensionality we are coming to almost monodimensionality now, because we cannot create. We cannot create. What we do is the wired context of refiguring of data. Wired context of refiguration of the data is absolutely chutyaba, to be frank enough, which you can do very well. That's not I'm talking about. I'm not interested at all. So when we are going to do into the context of that, because the sensory logics, when the senses start coming to us, why don't we create with the senses? I don't create with my nose. I create an advertisement of a perfume in which there is a bottle in which I put a sound, but I don't smell. So everything is brought to two context, image and sound. Now when we talk about image and sound, the complexities of the sound dynamics, that is the ears are on the sideways and the eyes are in the front. So from Homo sapien to Homo erectus logics, when we went, our whole context of perception of vision changed, and therefore the axis logic wise, the z axis logic which we create here on a flat surface, which we started calling as 3-dimension. So there is nothing like 3-dimension. The screen language which we are using today is a screen. So if I say, if there is a lady who is undressing in a screen, if there would have been really 3-dimensional images, people will buy the tickets on that side of the screen, but they will not buy on this side of the screen. And that's why when we are talking about image creations, the problem starts happening is that images are not created by the perception of the physicality. Images are never created by the perception of physical reality. Another context today with the scientific logic is coming that there is nothing like reality. Reality never exists. Reality never exists. Reality is a construct of mind, and it is always subjective. So let's come to the next part of it, that when we talk about concept called self, it is a formulated logic. And when we come to the formulated logics, according to its flux, I will change my context of reality. So we are going to watch a roughly 7-8 minute film. Play. Sound. Okay. What is the space? What is the time? What kind of context of space and time fragmentation and dynamization we can afford to internally respond to? Many times we only borrow it. Borrowing is very different context. Generating or originating in through you is very, very complex. Complex in a sense as simple as you do. Because when I was talking to you, when we talk about various kinds of things, you can remove that. When you can look at something, do you really see, or it is a perception of seeing that which is controlled by the image, because images travel billions, zillions, whatever the images travel. So you are not there where you are. Same way when we take a photograph, why do we take a photograph? Are we freezing the space? Are we freezing the time? Or not both? Because there cannot be happening like that. When we go and look at a camera, are we looking at a mirror, or are we looking at an image which is looking like a mirror, which is being looked by the camera? When there is nobody behind the camera, somebody is looking at me, then who is looking at me? So these are the dynamics which you will have to deal with. If you don't, remain happy like these people. Perfect. Yeah, howsoever you spread your chairs, tables, everything, this is same. Okay, you do whatever you say I can dance there on the tree and I will use my laptop, fuck you. Nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. Only thing, take out that, take out. Now why I am trying to say that it has completely structured, oriented and ourselves, now let's accept it. Let's accept it. So when I was watching a commercial in which it was happening that he says that everything is automated, and suddenly the girl screams and she says, and suddenly the sound comes and says, all of us are wired, and somebody takes out like this a wire out of you and then you are nobody. And they said, we are teaching our staff to be human because they are wired. So are we machinated humans or machinized humans? I don't know. That's your personal problem. So what is the personal problem is the concept of identity and self. When the layers of identity gets crushed or complexly connected to, sometimes we are frightened, sometimes we are fragmented, sometimes as he was talking, we stand against us. So when we say that vade vade jayate tattva veda, because unless and until I stand, so self standing me as myself or against myself, or somebody else is as my wife, she is standing against myself, because we think that we are together. So we are going to watch another film. Now here is the issue starting. Issue is connected to how you are going to layer, composite or do anything with your machine. I was watching a film couple of years back in which the computer wants to impregnate a woman and he says, I want a child from you. He completely transforms. He goes into her ovulation cycle. He has got all the data. He knows what is your temperature. He knows what is your blood pressure at that time. He says, he locks the whole thing. He says that supply is provided. So from the grocery shop to everything. And then he says that, look, I love you. I love you and I want a baby. He says, sorry. She says, I can't. He says, that is not your problem, that's my problem now. He goes into, including that, it goes into the complete delivery. But they don't show the child or a baby. So what is the generation logic? Whom you are going to put the images to? Which generation which is already about? So in the 21st century, if within next 40 years, whatever I am talking to is English and few other languages will be gone. Why do we create language? If we don't have a language, what kind of existence will be? Only image, context of references. Now when we are looking at this kind of thing, what is the context of zone, context of spaces and relationships? Because when I say self, from intimate zones, because these days you can see all those contexts, the camera going through the eye, coming out of the ear or anything, whatever you want, or you can go across the wall or go any place. So nobody is looking at something which is getting created but it is getting created, so somebody is looking at it. And by looking at it, if I am basically constructing myself, so if my construct itself is based on the factions or the fragments or the vikhanditata of self, then the vikhanditata, that is the fragmented self to be put together, will become homogeneous or uniform, in a sense holistic. Now, and that is where the logic starts becoming difficult, because if you have to create, you will have to cut, because the camera started saying cut it. Cut it means what? I cut the space, or I enter a space, or so the dynamization of space logic has been completely altered, because camera become the third omnipotent, omniscient, and most of the time with minor context of reference, it is a phallocentric third eye. It will be always looking at something which is created by male. You cannot destroy it. You cannot alter it. If you have to, then you will have to go back to the origin of the concept, because it's a third omnipotent eye, and the presence at that omnipotent eye is going to be difficult. You cannot be in your own self. Now, when we are talking about CCTV footage cameras and other kind of things, so what is personal? What is intimate? Because we put it on the net, we show it on something, and so here comes the context called anonymity. I am somebody, but I am nobody at the time of kind of display of myself as somebody, but somebody who is also nobody comes to me and looks at me and says, I like it. So the whole configuration of being human is structure. Is it a democracy? What kind of a concept? So post-ideological phenomena of feudal structures, this structure, that and that and that. What is democracy? Do I have anything else? I am showing you most of the students' films, because somewhere they are of earlier or same age group. I saw a 14-year-old girl's film couple of years back in Pune for short film competition, where she shot herself, more than that, 6 years back, and her mother came to me because she tried to slash herself with blades, and she shot it herself. Then she chopped some pieces of her hair and buried and put her blood on it, etc. Yeah, there is nothing like weird. Weirdity doesn't exist. Like morality doesn't exist. Ethic doesn't exist. Don't get frightened. We are like that. Why you are getting frightened? There's a question. The last couple of days somebody says, and you say status this, no, and that, and wife and husband. There is nothing like fidelity. These are already outdated concepts, because they were formulated after or during the concept related to marriage. Prior to marriage, was there a fidelity? There was nothing like fidelity. So, there is a certain period in which in the time zone we are, play. Now, here is the question about somebody who has come from some other socio-cultural economic zone and its existence. Are you getting it? That's the beginning. Check it. Check it, check it, check it. Reduce it. Okay. Focus. Is this the beginning? Check it. I am again telling you, it's not the beginning. Okay.
अरे बहुत लेट हो गया ना मुझे, बहुत रुकना पड़ा आपको। उशीर झाला आईला. ओके. आता बापू खायला आपल्याला ते लोग उशीर झाला मला. अरे यार, तकलीफ हो गई आपको वहाँ. बोलना मत जो. बोल दे, बोल एक बार, कुछ तो बोल. तुझसे कुछ गलती है तो बोल देना एक बार. घर पे क्यों नहीं बात कर लेता? इतना ही गुस्सा है तो उतार देना. और ये मत बोल कि उनको कुछ नहीं लगता मेरे बारे में. तुझे लगता है ना, तुझे लगता है उनके बारे में तो तू बोल. बोल.
ऐसी बात नहीं है.
फिर कैसी बात है?
पता नहीं, मुझे बस रहना ही नहीं तेरे साथ अब.
क्यों? अब तुझे नहीं लगता मेरे बारे में? भाग में जाते, मुझे भी कुछ जरूरत नहीं है. कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता.
मेरे लिए किसी को फर्क नहीं पड़ता. तुझे क्यों पड़ेगा? तू किसी और को पकड़ ले.
हाँ, पकड़ूंगी, लेकिन इस बार तेरे जैसे चुत्ता को नहीं पकड़ूंगी.
मैं मॉल भी छोड़ने वाला हूँ. पर वो तो स्कूटी लेने वाला था ना। ठीक है। हाँ बाइक ही सही रहेगी। मम्मी मैं आपको बाद में फ़ोन करूँ? जी जी मैं ज़रा बाहर। नहीं बस इतना ही था। जी हाँ जी रखता हूँ।
When we are talking about the recent phenomena, like this guy who has written the script was working in a top IT company. After 8 years, he left it. When I was conducting a workshop in Pune for 4 days, out of 70 persons applied, 55 people were really fed up with machines. And every time we used to say, okay, stand up, please give a brief about yourself. I'm from this company, I'm bored with it, I want to make a film. So who will create the narrative? Narrative is existing. So from the text to subtext to meta text to hyper super text, who will be creating those dynamics? And that is where we are going. I'm giving you one more film to watch. Now this is a very different film, and then we'll end up with some question and answer. Of course, I've got lots of films. What I'm trying to see, look at it in a different way. When we talk about the surrealism, when we talk about something, the dream, then unconscious, and the Freud and post-Freudian and post-probably Jungian, or even going into those contexts of references as image human being or the material human being relationship is totally different. And here, the first film, what about the bodies? Just check it. Now here is the film. It looks very in a way simple linear narrative. Okay, what about the bodies? First film. Watch it carefully. It's of a different way. Somebody is trying to construct. Full frame. Okay. Okay, let it be. Stop. The world is very interesting, fantastic. Create from your filth, speed, whatever. Create. Yeah, otherwise somebody will say, I'll censor this, I'll censor that. What are you going to do? Now it's open platform to you. Do whatever you want. Try it. Who stopped you? Anyway, finally, personally, it's you who are going to create and somebody else as you or he or she is or it is going to watch it. I'm not going into the gender logics of the image making and the complexity of gender logics into the image making and other aspects of references. So we chronologically went into that Tokyo logic. Yeah, we are part of a modern, urban, whatever sophisticated wow civilization. But there are so many other forces operating into it. So immigration in the context, why that photograph of that child on the beach became so strong? Why suddenly somebody says this is good, this is bad? Now the world is yours. There was another film which I saw in which a very interesting phenomena was happening, and this is very long time back, so by this time the things have changed a lot. One lady is having some terminal, some ailment or something, and a husband and both of them, and she doesn't have money, so she sells her death to some channel or some company. So they can keep on hovering multiple cameras to see how she is going to die. And they are going to sell it as a television serial. Okay, so it will be sold. And there is tremendous hit to it, lots of hits on it. Because you see her crying, you see she's having an acute pain or something. And wherever she goes, the cameras are following her. For her treatment and for her last kind of a complicated context of it, she has sold her death. Now then she realized at point that this is very personal, very, very personal context. And she wants to break. They said, we cannot break the contract. And she's tried to run away. She tries to hide, but wherever she goes, the cameras keep on hovering and following or something, or she doesn't know where the camera is placed. So we are talking about cameras. Now the cameras have become an invisible eyes. And they keep on hovering. At one point, finally, she goes into very, very low income group area, shares but somebody, somehow, you know, all the time, surveillances and all that thing. Finally, she meets a guy. Somehow they both come together and he tries to help her. They travel, they go some places, and then they go out of the range of the cameras. During time she is having acute pain and other kind of thing. One day she wants to buy something, so she goes to some small shop or something and she finds all those images on the screen. Because the guy with her is fitted with the cameras. So his eyes are looking and directly transmitting through satellite to the channel. And when she is completely disturbed because the guy whom she felt and he is having his eyes as cameras. Now the final thing that by this time he has developed a feeling for her. So he takes out a knife and removes the cameras. Are you interested in the future imagery? Or just going to say that Matrix and Inception is bloody good? Okay, get out of that shit. Okay, this is a crass, idiotic context. Genuine, original human sensitization and sensibilities if we can create the images. This is the last film of the evening. Because many times when I teach, these days children come with so many different ideas and cameras and their work on their computers or something. And then I started realizing you have to create to somebody There are various issues connected to I'm going to Delhi probably next month, talking how to educate people, how to create the future image makers. That's the issue I'm facing. Otherwise, Sasbau and other kind of stuff, okay, I don't like that, therefore I go to YouTube or something, it's again almost the same. And then Karwa Chauth plus item song, that will become a very interesting combination for us. So everybody is going va ga ga. Don't call. Your concept of gender and logics absolutely outdated to me. Totally outdated. There's a difference between fiction and non-fiction, male and female, and the complexities of that personal, universal, personal, social, personal, political, personal, very intimate personal to other kind of complex moral ethical codes is absolutely changed. And you are going to create the images, you are going to create the sounds, you are going to create the quote unquote the future narratives. The future narratives will be received by various kinds of logics in your personal zones or spaces or personal psychological zones or spaces. I don't know how you are going to create it. When I started looking at all these things, because when I was going abroad all over the places, and then I started realizing we are only externally, materially calling ourselves change to modernity or post-modernity or whatever it is. I was having a professor a couple of years back, and when he came back as a female to me, he was the same but very intelligent, very great person. I cannot differentiate. I cannot remove his intelligence or a creative ability just because he has changed his body. There are so many things are happening complicatingly. That's what we say, your bodies are synthetic. Not only your brains are machines, your bodies are synthetic. Now, with this reference, how to create a meaning as human being, as existential context of references of journeys and the zones through which we travel without even we knowing it. That's what our job is. And I wish you all the best in your job. In any way, if I would have tried to make sense to you, I hope that I don't know how long I'll keep on teaching. I started teaching in 40 years back because I love this profession. Not just because I get a salary. Okay. What I mean is that you are going to be the image makers, sensibility creators, sensitizing people or the human beings from various ranges of minds and various zones. That's your job. And I wish you all the best. Thank you. I can go on teaching one film for 1 month to you or 3 months to you. Just yesterday somebody was saying, sir, you talked about 5 minutes of this film and you were talking for 4.5 hours. One of my students in Mumbai, she's a very good editor. She said, my first exercise of 2.5 minutes, he was talking to me for 5 hours to 6 hours. Yes, we'll have to deal with it. But that's your journey. And I'm really happy to be invited here. I thank all of you for being patient with me. I was much sober today. I'm not that sober. Because being, as you talk about, you are informal, you are open, this, I'm not very sure about it. In my classes, I'm much, or in my places, like some people say that I was teaching some students a couple of years back on Bandra station at night, 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Sit there. I'll teach you. In front of Siddhi Vinayak, it was raining. I said, okay, let's sit inside that. One day we were sitting and all those police with all those tents and other kind of gunny bags, with sand-filled gunny bags were there. It was raining. So we had a class from 10 o'clock to 1:30, 2 o'clock at night near Siddhi Vinayak. So I'm a really crazy guy. And therefore I'm trying to tell you that if you love this profession, you're part of me. Yeah, if you just come, even then it is also nothing wrong. But enrich yourself because you are opening the world for somebody else and you are going to be the creators. And that's how the future world will look at it.